Hello fellow traders, my name is Video James, and today we're going to be doing a review on the Transformers Studio Series Starscream. So, as I said, this is part of the Studio Series that just got released, and if you don't know what that is, it is basically a line of Transformers that have been released that are trying to be more accurate towards the movie versions, and they've done, I believe so far, they've done a Stinger, a Bumblebee, a Ratchet, a Starscream, an Optimus, and a Blackout. It is actually of that series, and it actually is a very nice looking Starscream. So right off the bat, we can see good paint applications. I mean, honestly, I love the paint applications on this figure. Not only the kind of spray-ish look that they got going on for the gray, that's kind of almost brush painted up in here and on the wings and on the back fins as well, but also just the kind of texture that they use for it, that there's a subtle difference to the texture of the regular paint and the texture of the grayish paint that actually makes it look different and actually makes it look nicer. And I do like the colors that they use. The colors that they use look very nice. And looking at the top of the figure, we can actually see that there are little logos on the side of the wings like regular jets have. So we see on this side we got the Decepticon logo, and on the other side we got a star logo, which is, I believe, the symbol that they put on the American Army's jets. Another great thing about this figure is the way they made it conceal the robot mode. So with the Studio Series, basically what they've done is they've done kind of a better job of concealing some of the robot forms. Also, I just remembered another Studio Series figure, Grimlock. Grimlock is actually another Studio Series figure. But the way they actually kind of concealed the robot form, so if you look like underneath, you can't really tell much that there's a robot mode. You can kind of just see like what looks like maybe a couple gears. And then if you turn it up like this, I turn it up, haha, I get it. You can almost kind of not tell if there's any robot parts at all. You can kind of make out the legs back here, but those still blend in very nicely, and I really like that. I like how they didn't make the robot forms all too obvious like they do with typically with the vehicles, especially with the Bumblebees, that the bottoms typically have like the entire robot mode is just shown, and you get to see basically the entire robot is just shoved underneath the hood of a car. But with this Starscream, it actually looks all concealed, and it looks all nicely hidden, like it's actually a robot in disguise. Of course, this Starscream did actually come with a little arm blaster. Now, I gotta say, I really like this. When I got it out of the box, it was still bent, and it kind of is still bent, but you can see, like, these were bent when I took it out of the box, so they're really easy to bend. They are actually rubber, so it's probably gonna be easy for me to bend them back, but it's not really that hard to. And I do like this kind of bronze application that they got going on here. I like the detailing that they got around the barrel of the gun. And when it comes to storage, it's actually got a lot of decent storage space that you can either, you can stick it into one of these pegs in the back wings, you can stick it into one of these pegs in the front wings, but there's also an area, I believe it was it's right here, in the middle of the back of the plane, where you can just take this, and it has these little pegs in the front, and you can just take this and stow it up here, and then it doesn't look like it's offset and unbalancing the plane, because if you stick it on the wings, no matter which wing you stick it on, it's gonna stick out, but if you stick it on the back, it kind of just conceals nicely, and it kind of just looks like a little bit of, almost kind of turbo coming out of the plane, or a little bit of ignition. This figure actually is fairly decent. It actually stands at around, I'd say 8 3/4 of an inch, and it actually is about, inch and a half tall, so it's a decently sized figure. It's not really that short, in all honesty. It's actually a very big Starscream, which I really like just because it kind of makes it scale very nice, that when it's scaled up against Bumblebee in robot mode, it actually does seem like a correct size. That Scream actually is bigger than Ironhide, and Ironhide's bigger than Bumblebee, so it stands to reason that Starscream would kind of be a lot bigger than Bumblebee. And speaking of Bumblebee, here we have a size comparison, so you can see Starscream a good inch and a half longer than the 1974 Camaro Bumblebee. And then here we have it next to the Transformers Highway Battle Optimus Prime. So now let's actually get into the transformation. So the first thing you want to do, if you haven't already, is probably take this off, because this is going to get in the way. But first thing you want to do is you want to take the wheels on the bottom and you want to flip those in. So he's got one on his side, on his front, and he's got two on his side over here. So you just flip those in and peg them in. And then you want to take the top part up here with these fins and you want to flip these down And then, actually, no, you don't want to flip those down yet. What you want to do, actually, is you want to take these, the side wings, and you want to actually pull them from the back. You want to kind of pull them away from the other fins, and you want to also pull them up. And as you're doing that, you'll hear a little click, and then you'll see the wing actually go up like that to where it's got a good, decent bit of distance between it and the other part of the wing. So then you do the same thing on the other side. You kind of just pull it up. It's kind of resistant when it comes to actually getting the wing to go up because it's kind of pegged in from the side and the front. So it takes a bit of effort, but otherwise it actually is easy enough. What you want to do is you want to actually take this and you want to flip it up like that and flip this up. So that basically you have this and you have it flipped up like that. And then you want to do the same thing on the other side. You want to take this, rotate it a bit, and then flip this up and flip this part up as well. And then that kind of makes it easier to rotate that part. What you do is you take these, you flip these down, and then you pull this apart from the thing that's underneath it that's pegged into the bottom. That once I get the pegs out, there we go. You can see there's little peg holes in the back of the legs right here. And there's little pegs right here on the top of the wings. So that kind of keeps them in place. But what you want to do is you want to kind of flip it to where it's like that. To where it's kind of at like an acute angle to the rest of the body. And then what you can do is you can take this and you can flip it up. And you'll actually reveal the arms. So then you just take these, flip them up like that, and flip them up like that. And then you can actually pull them out. They do peg into here. There's these little pegs in here and on the back of the arms. So they do kind of peg into there. And then you might need to move these out of the way again, but then you just rotate these forward. You do kind of need to turn these inward. That I found that when you're transforming it, the arms don't really come into the body or go out of the body unless you fold them in. So you kind of want to do that. And then you kind of fold the arm out. And you just do the same thing over here, fold it in, and then pull this out, and then fold the other arm out. And then what you can do is you can actually take this part, this little almost cabbage part, and pull that up, and you kind of get to see a sneak peek of Starscream's head. And then there's this little silver part up here that you can see it's kind of prying itself apart already. But behind the cockpit, there's this little silver part, so you want to flip that up. And then you see Starscream's face right there. Well, you can't really see it because of shadow. But you see Starscream's face right there, and then you just flip it down like that. And then it just flips into place. And then you flip the thing underneath the cockpit back up. And then you actually have that snapping into place. Then what you do is you take the arms, you flip them down, you rotate this part, and you basically just pull the hand apart from the forearm. And that is how you basically do the arms. And then you do the same thing over here, that you do this arm and flip it out like that. And like that, there you go. And then you take these parts that we flipped out earlier and you flip them into here. Now, there's a little peg underneath Starscream's chest that you can peg this into. I don't know why, but for some reason the right peg on this one doesn't really like to go in that easy. That it takes a lot of working to actually get it to go in. And sometimes it'll just snap off entirely. So it does take a bit of effort to get that one to go in right. But it does actually go in the way it's supposed to most of the time. It goes in and it pegs in like that. And then you do the same thing for the other side. Like I said, I have no clue why the right one pegs in so much harder than the left one. Like, it takes so much more effort to peg in the right one than the left one. But you do that and you just peg them in like that. And then basically what you do is you take the wings, and now that we have these little pegs up back here, we can just flip this up and flip it into these. If this decides to stay in, which sometimes it doesn't, but you kind of want to hold it in place, and then you just flip these in and put this up like that. It may take a bit of adjusting to get the wings behind the back wings to actually go in, but eventually you will actually be able to get them to go in. And then for the legs, it's actually very simple. What we do is we basically just pry these apart, and it does take a bit of force, so you're going to have to do that. And then you basically just flip them out like this, and flip them out like that, so that they're now facing the front. And then what you do is you flip the legs down, that there's these little pegs in the front of the thighs, in front of Starscream's thick thighs, that you pull these out, and then you flip this down, and you gotta kind of push the feet up a bit. The feet do actually kind of hurt because they're claws, so it does take a bit of finagling to actually get them up, and it does take a good amount of force. A lot of this figure takes a good bit of force to actually get to go into place, which I like. I like how it doesn't like just completely snap in and snap out of place like some of the other figures. And here we have the Transformers Studio Series Starscream completely transformed in his robot mode. So I gotta say, this Starscream is one of the figures I'm most impressed with. That it's one of probably the best Starscreams that I've ever seen, and it actually is probably the best Starscream I've ever seen. Right away at the Starscream's height, it's about 7 3/4 inches. It's not exactly 8 inches. And it is about 6 inches across. I actually remember that measurement because I took it earlier. But it is actually a decently sized figure. It is a very nice scaled figure too. That for Starscream, that scale is actually very understandable. It actually is very short compared to the Last Knight Leader Class Megatron still too, which is nice because, of course, Starscream's not as big as Megatron if Megatron can just push him around, and Megatron literally holds Starscream's head in his hand. Here we see that we do get a nice, decent bit of concealing with the plane mode in robot form, as well as the robot form in plane mode. That when we look at it right here, we can't really tell that much of it is a plane. I mean, if we look at the back, we can kind of clearly tell. But looking at it, we can't really see much of a plane. You can see the cockpit and the wings. But other than that, it's all very nicely concealed, and I really do like that. I like how, with this Starscream, they actually did make it more of a robot in disguise, that not a lot of its vehicle form was showing. And when it comes to the paint application, again, I gotta say, paint application in the robot mode is just as good as it is in the vehicle mode. Not only for the eyes, that we look at the head, we got this kind of bronzish color here, which is actually very nice, but we also get the red eyes that are actually very nice. I wish they'd done like a bit more sculpting on the eyes to get like a little circle in it. We do get kind of a little ball, but we don't really get the kind of typical circle that you see on like Bumblebee. That when we look at Bumblebee, we see that his eyes kind of carved into a circle. With Starscream, we kind of get just like a concealed bulb almost. But I do like that kind of bright red that they use for the eyes. And when it comes to the other paints, again, they carry it over very nicely from the robot mode. That the bluish gray and the tannish gray, and that all look very nice. And they did actually keep the texture on some of the paint areas, and I like the application that they used on the limbs as well. That the limbs on the arms actually have a good, decent bit of paint. That on the kind of guards, we have the kind of gray paint that we see down here. But then for like the underarms, we can see like this little gray piece, which is kind of like the color of the gears, which I actually really like. We don't actually get a Decepticon logo on this Starscream on the front, which is kind of odd. I would have kind of thought there would be like a Decepticon logo on the helmet or something, but no. Also, the helmet looks like it can actually come apart. It doesn't. It looks like it comes apart because it looks like the head can be split in half. It doesn't, trust me. I tried. And then when it comes to the back, we actually do get a decent bit of detailing. That when we look at the back, we see all this kind of detailing, like there have been gears shifted in and out of place, and there's been stuff kind of folded up, and I really like that. I like how it's all kind of like, again, making more focus on the fact that it's a robot in disguise. And it does actually get a decent bit of back package, that when we look at the size of this, it actually is a decent bit of back package. But in all honesty, for that, for Starscream, it actually is still nice. Just because with Starscream's robot mode, we know he has like jet boosters in his back, so having this kind of back package actually makes sense for Starscream. Again, I just gotta say, I really love this figure's paint application just because it's so good, and the detailing, again, absolutely amazing, especially around the face. They really got good detailing on the face. And then for size comparison, here he is next to the Transformers Triple Evolution Bumblebee 2017 Concept Camaro Bumblebee. And then for human comparison, here he is next to the Marvel Legends 6-inch series Deadpool. And then, of course, here we have him next to the Transformers Age of Extinction Leader Class Optimus Prime Grimlock. And then another cool thing about this Starscream is you can actually put the gun on his arm two different ways. So there's a little peg on the back of the arm that you can put it into, or you can actually take it and put it on his arm, So it's like in the movies when the hands of the Transformers are actually concealed when they have their weapons, that now he's just got his cannon on his arm. With this Starscream, I honestly have to give it a 5 out of 5. I can't say anything bad about it. The paint application is spectacular, the detailing is spectacular, and honestly, the accuracy that they got on this figure is just dead on. That a lot of the stuff on this figure they did not do wrong, and they did most of it completely right. Again, I do kind of wish some of the pegs stayed in a little better. Like, one of the pegs on one of the legs of this Starscream actually doesn't like to stay in, and the pegs, of course, in the chest area and on the back here don't really stay in all that well. But overall, it's still very nice. I absolutely say if you want a Starscream or any Decepticon at all, get this one because it is honestly one of the best Transformers I've ever seen. Regardless, for now I'm going to leave this video here. I'll leave a link to this toy in the description if you want to go check it out. It is actually worth getting. A lot of the Studio series are worth getting. I would say everything except the Ratchet, the Optimus, and the Bumblebee from the Studio series are worth getting. And that's just because of a few minor pet peeves, but the Bumblebee I would say definitely don't get. And I never say that about a Bumblebee, but that one really I just do not like. Regardless, if you guys liked this video, you can slap the like button as always, and I'll see all you beautiful people in the next video.